In this demo, I will walk you through pending review and explain what all the buttons mean under pending review. Now, there are two ways to get to the pending review information. One is you can click the tab here itself, or you can even click it within the action item. Now, 209 means that there's 209 invoices waiting for your review and approval. And this is for accounts payable or accounting, because this is the view from accounts payable. Now, if we open up an invoice, you can see there's a bunch of buttons at the top. The first button is to toggle between the invoices. So you can see here, this is 269 and 38. It'll move to the next invoice over within the list, etc. And so you have the ability to move within the pending review to the different invoices. Now, the next button over is send for reapproval. So let's just say that for whatever reason, the address was not the correct address for this invoice, or we needed to make a change, and it needed to go back into the approval process based on the workflow that you've established. And so let's just go change this address. It was the wrong address. You would click send for reapproval. You can write a note. It's mandatory to write a note, wrong address, and we'll send that out. And what happens is it now goes back into the workflow. You can see here GM moved from 3 to 4, and pending review moved out from 209 to 208. So it's back in the workflow based on your configuration of how you want the workflow to work. In this case, it went to the general manager first. So if we go back into pending review, you'll see the next button over is save. So in this case, let's say we didn't have, it was not net 14 days, but it was due upon receipt. We wanted to save that change. We can save the change. And then if we go back into that invoice, you will see that it's now saved as invoice terms. So you have the ability to go back to it at a later time to actually review it. Now, if you are okay and you agree that all the information was extracted, all the GL information is correct, you would click review for download, which then moves it from pending review into ready for export. And ready for export is the last stage where you're going to push that information to your accounting system. Now, the next button is complete no download. You would use complete no download when you want to store the invoice itself. Maybe you got the approval, but you don't want this information to go into your accounting system. And so you would click complete no download, and it will move it to the completed section here, 89, but it does not move it into ready for export, as you're not going to push any information from this invoice to your accounting system. The next button over is our notes. So you can write notes here and save the note, and the note is there. And I'll show you the note in a sec. The next button is the audit trail, and this will give you full visibility as to exactly what happened, where the invoice is at every stage. So you can see here it was received by this individual by email. It was processed and sitting in pending review. If we look at other invoices that, let's say at the GM level, you will see that this is an invoice at the audit trail. It was uploaded manually. It was processed as this. There was an issue. It came in at this, and now it's sitting in pending review. So it's a full audit trail of exactly every step of the way of where the invoice is in the process. Now, remember that note that we put saying hello? Well, here it is in blue. So now you've added a note, and there it is saying hello. I'm the super user, and this was the timestamp of when it occurred. So if you had to add notes to an invoice, that's where you would do that as well. Now, if you would just want to move this to trash and you're not happy with it, you would just move this, press this button, and it'll ignore it and move it out of the system itself. Now, to change any of the information, it's very easy. Just go into the box, change the number to 15 for whatever reason. You can change the invoice date. You can change the terms. You can change the location. And you also have the ability to change any of the information. In this case, this was a line item invoice, so it looks different than a total line item invoice. But here you can change all of the numbers and the GL as well. The GL is actually this number here. The -10 is actually the store suffix. Now, your accounting system might not have a store suffix, but we always show a suffix associated with your store, just so you know that it is associated with the same store, because we do have another feature where you can separate the information by store. And so we do show that for information purposes. If you did need to change the GL, you could easily just change the GL number itself, and that will now change. And when you export this information to the accounting system, that new GL will be picked up for, in this situation, this meat. There is another feature over here, so you can switch between to see the different pages. So this was page 1, page 2, page 3 of this invoice. And also, I will just try to open up another invoice just to give you visibility for those toggles. You can see here that if you want to show the labels of what we're actually showing, so right now this is the address, but when you set up the vendor, you can show that the property address is right here. So this is just a toggle to show you the name of the fields of what we're actually pulling the information. Also, if you wanted to send out a notification once the email is in the approval state, there is a megaphone, and you can send an approval to those individuals. That is sitting outside of the pending review itself. And that's really it. And you can see here in pending review, there's different columns that show you by holdco, by store, by invoice, by vendor, by the invoice date, the time it's created, and how many days it's outstanding once it came into the system. And everything is searchable at the top. So you could search for, Enbridge invoices. This is the one that's sitting in pending review. If you wanted to deal with that itself, you can look at all. You also can just look at, let's say, certain holding companies, etc. Thank you very much.